Most people overcomplicate meal prepping and end up spending 3 to 4 hours in the kitchen, or honestly just end up giving up because they don't have enough time. Today I'm going to show you exactly what I do to meal prep for the next 3 to 4 days that only takes me 45 minutes. What is up everyone? My name is Alfonso Lopez and I'm the owner of Let's Work Official, a coaching company where we help men and women become the best version of themselves through health and fitness. And in today's video, as you can tell by the intro, we are going to be going over a meal prepping video about how I meal prep to make it as easy and efficient for me. I will say as a disclaimer, I don't meal prep for the entire week, and nor do I meal prep a bunch of meals at once. Personally, what I like to do is I like to make my carbs, my proteins, and of course I'll make my fats as I go kind of throughout the day, because those are mostly eggs and oils and things that you want to cook the day of. But nonetheless, I just wanted to show how I personally meal prep my proteins and carbs, just so that way people have an understanding of how to go about it as well, because I do understand that meal prepping can be extremely overwhelming. So whenever it comes to meal prepping, like I mentioned, I like to prepare my carbohydrates and proteins separately. We're gonna start out first though with the proteins, which for this week, it's going to be some beef, 93.7 organic beef, and also some chicken breasts that I picked up from Sprouts right here. Whenever it comes to meal prepping my protein sources, I personally just try to make it literally as simple as possible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tray right here. I'm going to spray it down with, let me grab it really quick. I'm going to spray it down with some olive oil. I specifically get this Pam one, mostly because it's just the one that I personally like. And the other ones just are definitely a little way too artificial for me. This one obviously may not be the best, but it's just one that I personally use. I will say a quick tip. What is the difference between using this right here and just using some regular extra virgin olive oil, which I do have right here? I will say there's not gonna be a whole lot of a difference, because even with this, notice how on the back, it does say 0 calories, but that is 0 calories for a quarter second of a spray, and it's like, I don't even know how you measure that. So yes, there's gonna be calories in this, but I personally just like using this because one, I think it is just a little bit easier, but two, it is just honestly a habitual thing that I do. So it's like, at the end of the day, as long as you're consistent with what method it is that you're using, whether it's this or this, I do think people get more calories just by using this because they're not cautious of what they're measuring. At the end of the day, as long as you're consistent with it though, you're gonna be pretty well off. So just be consistent with whatever method you decide to use. So we are gonna go with the olive oil spray. So then now right here, we are going to finally have our chicken breast seasoned. I will say I personally do butterfly my chicken. That just means cut them in half, but not fully. So it makes this like butterfly heart shape. Personally, that is just what I like to use, just because I feel like it cooks the chicken a little bit better and it doesn't take as long. I will say, just as a note, I preheated my oven to 350 degrees and I'm gonna cook it for around 45-ish minutes. I will say that does also include like it heating up to that point. So overall the time just kind of like balances out, but that is what I personally do. So then now we are moving on to our beef, 93.7 ground beef. This is going to be pretty self-explanatory. I will say too, I forgot to add this in, you can definitely cook a lot more quantities than what it is that I am personally cooking right now. I just didn't realize that this was the only amount of food that I bought. And I also ate a full one of these earlier just because I needed to kind of fit my macros and it's what I had available. But we're going to meal prep one of these just so that we have it for tomorrow. But like I said, you can pack 2 or 3 of these. It'll last you a few days, which is nice. I do use a little bit of the olive oil spray whenever it comes to making my beef, mostly because I feel like it sticks in my pan and I just don't like dealing with that. So we're gonna cook this. And as we're cooking this, we're going to prepare our carbohydrates just so that way we have those ready for the week as well. So now that we have our chicken and our beef obviously cooking, we're gonna be making sure that we keep an eye on this obviously as it cooks. We are going to now prepare our carbohydrates. For carbohydrates, what I'm gonna end up doing is sweet potato and white rice. I also eat some fruit as well, and some cream of rice and some pancake mix that I have. But the ones that obviously need prepared are going to be the white rice and the sweet potato, so I'll show you guys how I do. So whenever it comes to preparing white rice on the stove, I actually just learned how to cook on the stove my white rice because my rice cooker cooked. Crazy how I just now learned, considering I've been eating white rice for so long. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna boil our rice, and what we need to do is first is boil the water. I personally cook 2 cups of white rice at a time. So for that, we're gonna need 4 cups of water. So it's pretty much a 1 to 2 or 2 to 1 ratio. So for 2 cups of water is 1 cup of white rice. We're having 2 cups of white rice, so we need 4 cups of water. So now we're gonna wait until that starts to boil, and then we will add in our white rice. So now as we are waiting for our water to boil so we can add in our rice, we are going to make our sweet potatoes so that way you can have these ready and prepared for the week. Like I said, you can make as many as you want. I just have 2 on hand. So I'm going to cut these up on the cutting board into very, very small pieces. And then I'm going to microwave them to obviously get them the texture, the consistency that I want. So now we finally are preparing the potatoes that I had just cut up. What I like to do is I grab one of these silicone bowls that I have from Pride Foods right here. I'm going to put them all in the bowl and then rinse them with water to dampen them. What you could also do is kind of get a napkin. I don't have any, or I would demonstrate it, and also kind of put it over it, like damp the napkin, put it over it, kind of let it cook on top, and that tends to really soften up the potatoes, which is just essentially what we're doing by putting them in the microwave, is just softening them up, just so that way they are actually edible. You can obviously eat it without them being soft, but that's just not ideal. But these are 2 whole potatoes. These are actually 2 pretty big potatoes, a lot bigger than I was expecting. But that's kind of just what we're working with. Excuse this giant mess that I made. Run a bunch of water over them, put it in the microwave for about 15 minutes, and we should be good to go. Potatoes are finally made, our white rice is made, and our beef is made as well. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in just containers and bowls that I have, just so that way I have them prepared and obviously put them in the refrigerator. So gonna divvy these up and then wait for the chicken to be done, and then just show how I kind of prepare for the next day whenever I do need to prepare my meals. But then now I finally have my chicken breast completed. It is obviously steaming because I just took it out of the oven. Sit in a glass bowl, so it's definitely not going to burn. But now that I finally have my proteins all made, my beef right here, my rice right here, which is a hefty amount, my carbohydrates, I did want to show you guys what I do for my vegetables and my fruit. I normally end up going for some type of green bean, the organic cut green beans. Just one that I personally like to use. I'll throw it in the microwave whenever I need it, and heat up the bag, then take out as much as I need and then use it throughout the next day or 2 or however long that I need it for. Fruit wise, what I've been going for is nothing but strawberries. Just very easy, very just quick to grab, right? And then also for more carbohydrates and more fats and a little bit of extra protein too, this is what I use also. Just so that way I just wanted to be transparent and showed everything that I eat. What I also use is obviously going to be some eggs for some protein and fat. Specifically in the morning is when I like to use eggs. I do use some rice and grinds, some cream of rice, a hot breakfast cereal. This is a carbohydrate source, so I'll use some of this. I'll use some Pride Stacks, a pancake and waffle mix, and then I will also use some type of orange juice first thing in the morning to just kind of help out with delaying my cortisol, kind of suppressing that down, allowing my thyroid function. That, not to get into the science of it, but I use some type of fruit juice. And then also I do use olive oil. I mentioned earlier how you can cook with this, but I personally just prefer the spray. I do use this in my meals throughout the day, specifically with like chicken, sweet potato, green beans, chicken, white rice, green beans, mostly because this also helps with the breakdown of food and kind of just pushing it through your system because it's in oil. So it's a very, very easy fat source to get in, but it also has digestive benefits, which is nice. So that is pretty much everything that I need whenever it comes to all the foods that I make. Whenever it comes to making stuff like this in the morning, it literally takes me maybe 5 to 7 minutes so there's not a whole lot of preparation, right? I throw my eggs on the pan, I get my cream of rice, I put water in it, I put it in the oven, I take it out, I let it chill, put the eggs on it, add some fruit, and that's my breakfast of the morning. So that's why those things don't really require a lot of preparation. It's more or less the chicken breasts and the beef and the rice and the sweet potatoes. So having those prepared obviously goes a long way. But as for how I kind of go about it when it comes to preparing my foods, the main thing that I want people to take away is notice how I'm preparing ingredients and not preparing meals. Whenever it comes to preparing meals, like for the entire week, that can be really overwhelming. So what I like to do is I literally like to prepare ingredients. This is going to be chicken breast. What I just showed was beef, white rice, sweet potatoes, green beans. I just prepare the ingredients, and then as I kind of not necessarily go throughout my day, I do have the benefit of working remote, so it's very easy for me to make my meals. But whenever I wasn't working remote and I wasn't at home, what I would do is, I'll show you guys these containers real quick. What I would do is I would have 2 containers and obviously my lunch bag as well, and some ice packs because I wanted to make sure my food stayed chilled if I didn't have a fridge. But what I would do is I would wake up, I'd have breakfast, and as I was making breakfast, I would prepare my meals and put them into these 2 containers. So it just made it easier for me to make breakfast, prepare the 2 meals that I know that I need for the day, that I'll be at work, you know, working, so I have them ready. I normally always have my last meal at home because obviously it's kind of like a few hours before I go to bed, but it just makes it super easy in my opinion to just pull this stuff all out of the fridge, pack it into these little containers. It literally doesn't matter what containers you use. These are the ones that I just personally use, and just go throughout my day. So yeah, don't overcomplicate it. Meal prepping is extremely simple. That literally took me less than an hour, 45 minutes, give or take. I made everything else as the chicken was being made. Literally only 45 minutes of your time. Yes, there's some cleanup, so it may add an hour, but now you're prepared for the next 3 to 4 days. And like I said, you can add more to this. I just like to cook every 3 to 4 days since I have that luxury of time to be able to do so. But some people cook for about 4 or 5, maybe 6 days. Personally, I don't like doing that with protein sources, just because I do think if they sit for too long, that's not necessarily a good thing. But that's just how I do it. So hopefully you guys took away some value from this video. I just noticed that my dryer is running, so hopefully you guys can hear this as well. But like I said, hopefully you guys took away some value from this video. And if you did, drop it down below in the comments what it is that you took away from this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.